Good morning, Buck Bookers. It is I, Buck, and welcome back to another episode of Buck's Books. Today, I would like to talk to you about a real piece of crap by the name of Boundless. Upgrade your brain, optimize your body, defy aging. So, too good to be true, right? Right, correct. Good instincts. Not only is it too good to be true, it's also too bad to be good. The book is almost 700 pages, and I don't know why. You don't have that much information, especially about self-improvement, to contribute to the current milieu. It's just not out there. If you did, it would be because you were a doctor, and you'd have to be like a mad scientist kind of doctor. You can't just be the kind of doctor who, I don't know, does cardiology and then comes home and writes a 700-page book about optimizing your health. If you have the time to do that, I don't trust you as a doctor. You're misusing your energies here. Ben Greenfield is not any sort of doctor. He is, per his own biography, the president of the chess club, violin player, and complete nerd in school. He especially loved writing fantasy fiction. And then he goes and becomes America's top personal trainer, one of the world's top 100 most influential people in health and fitness. And then he wrote 14 books, right? I haven't read any of his other 14 books, and I suspect I will not. And part of that is because he's a narcissist, obviously. And part of that is because he's not a very good writer, and part of that is because the book was stupid. So, it was about biohacking, but in a very ugly way. I like optimization, which is why I read a book like Boundless in the first place. I like the books that tell you, well, because of evolution, we are more suited to eating this. So if you eat this, it is more bioavailable for your body. This will give you a leg up in terms of performance. I like that. It's like the iron thing. Chelated versus unchelated iron. Iron is much more absorbable when it comes from red meat. Your body just knows what to do with that. So you can get iron from spinach and broccoli, but the amount that you're able to use from what you ingest is something like 10%. Whereas the iron that you get from a steak, you can use up to 25% of it, just right away, because it's much more bioavailable, right? Not to mention that steak is going to have much more iron in it than does the broccoli or the spinach. So in order to get the equivalent amount of iron you can actually utilize out of a steak, right? You just gotta eat the steak. To get the same amount out of spinach, you have to eat that quantity worth of spinach. And then you have to double it, because half of what you just ate, your body's not able to use. And that much spinach is going to tax your system. So even though you did the math correctly, you're probably not going to get as much bioavailable iron. And there's going to be a lot of feedback from your system because you just ate like 4 pounds of spinach as compared to 6 ounces of steak. Now I'm just ballparking those numbers. I'm not going to look it up. You can look it up. Ask AI. You're a grown man or woman. Anyways, that's what I'm into. That's the kind of optimization I look for. That's what I'm hoping for when I read these books. That is not what Ben Greenfield is in the market to provide. What he does is pills. He likes pills. He likes supplements. He likes drugs. He definitely likes steroids. He never says anything about steroids, but I find it impossible to believe that he accomplished so much in the fitness world, and he's the world record holder for all of these races, and the greatest personal trainer who ever lived. Oh, competitive bodybuilder. So he did all that, and you don't do it natty. You're not going to become a competitive bodybuilder natty unless you're a natty bodybuilder, and like, if you were, you're probably not going to put that as one of your credentials. But he never mentions steroids, he mentions everything else, to the point where like he's telling you what kind of drugs to do, you know? And he's a big fan of microdosing psychedelics, and all of these other, he talks about these herbs and research chemicals that, well, not only are they good for you, they make sex better. And just all this, it's very it's very shallow, it's very cringe would be the word for it, I think. Now, obviously, this is a 700-page book, and it's just this guy congratulating himself on what he considers to be psychonautistry, right? He thinks he's pushing the frontiers, he thinks he's exploring and contributing and providing more wealth, providing to the wealth of knowledge of mankind. And what he's doing is playing with himself, essentially. And I couldn't read 700 pages of that. So I think I made it like a quarter of the way into the book. And as you know, that's my cutoff. I made it a quarter of the way in. And I was like, well, this sucked the whole time and will continue to suck, I suspect. So I'm going to go ahead and stop reading this. And then I didn't review it for months. So if I caught it fresh, I'm sure there would have been more for me to complain about. But as it stands, you get the picture. So if any of that sounds like it would tickle your fancy, by all means, go for it. I don't care. I don't care what you do. If you want to upgrade your brain, optimize your body, and defy aging by ordering research chemicals off Amazon, I encourage you to do so. In fact, let me know how it goes in the comments, assuming you survive. But I have heard dark tales about the long-term effects of the powders, and I just watched The Substance, which is a cautionary tale about ordering research chemicals off the internet. So be careful, beloved Buck Booker. Sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes it's better to just age with dignity. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe.